chapters of a book called Winged Barrow, I think is how you pronounce it. I don't know. But Far Memory Books is in the title. So I'm going to be reading the first 3 chapters of this, and I really hope you guys enjoy. Personally, I've never heard this book before, but I'm excited to read it. Okay, the first chapter is called Into Exile. When the time came for me to return to Earth, a messenger of the great overloads told me that I should be reborn in Cam, and the two who would fashion my new body would welcome me, for we had been companions aforetime, and the ties between us were of love and not of hatred, which are the 2 threads that bind men most closely together upon earth. And for my brother, I should have one with whom I have traveled long upon the great journey. When this was told to me, the sorrow which all know when they must leave their true home and go to the place of mists upon another day's journey was lightened, for I should have companions in my exile. While my mother still sheltered me with her body, my father sought to find a gift that would tell her of the love that filled his heart. He could not tell her of his love in words, for words are but the fleeting shadows of reality. Carvers in turquoise nor workers in gold or ivory could please him with their finest craftsmanship. One day, as he was walking into the gardens of the place in the cool of the evening, he thought of making a garden for my mother, a garden such as had never been seen before. Only by this could he symbolize his love, for nothing can be greater than its creator, and though a carving may be a song in stone, it is born of the sculptor, but the plants of the earth are the children of the gods. I'm running out of breath, sorry. And so, in a curve like the young moon, he planted trees to shade her from the sun at noonday, and bushes with aromatic leaves to spice the air for her refreshment. And for the bowstring of this living bow there was the lapping water of the lake, which stretched its silver to the setting sun, and Menti in the west. Then he mustered a host of grassy spears which closed their ranks to make the smooth green lawns, and he starred them with the little flowers, scarlet and yellow, violet, blue and white, which grew to make a carpet for her feet. From lands beyond the boundaries of Cam, he brought the scarlet lilies of the land of gold, and the trumpet vines that grow far to the south, where men walk in their own shadow. And from the north he summoned lemon trees. Wait, oleanders. Sorry, some of these words I do not know how to pronounce them. And anemones, and flowers that kept her perfume for the moon to fill the dusk with her drowsy sweetness. A honeysuckle entwined arabida flowers in the blue convolvulus to make her wreaths. When I was 12 days old, my father, for the first time, took her to this garden that he had made for her. It was surrounded by a garden wall, and upon the lintel of the door of cedar wood were carved their names, Za'atet and Mereneset. Sorry, I really don't know how to pronounce some of these. The beloved of the Barrow's heart. Together they went into the flowering shade where the paths were secret as gazelle tracks through the reeds. When she reached the heart of the garden, quiet, and saw a garden more beautiful than any she had dreamed, she said that here the petals of the flowers were as though the clouds of the sunset had been carved in blossoms by the sun god Ra, who upon the earth could never before have found such pleasure for his rays, and both agreed that it must have pleased the god to see his children here so glorified. So they named this place Seket Ra, the meadow of Ra, and to me also they gave this name. My brother who had returned to earth 3 years before me, called Nea, for at his birth the priest of Ma'at in a tent nurse, and I thought I knew all about Anubis, but I couldn't find words to explain it to Naya. When we got home, I told my mother about it, and she gave me a little statue of Anubis just the same, only child size, with a little painted wooden house for it to live in. And I kept it beside my bed so that I could see it the first thing in the morning when I woke up. Mother said that Anubis was the bringer of dreams to children. Sometimes I dreamed of being grown up and doing lots of very important things. I couldn't quite remember them, but in the morning it seemed very unfamiliar to be only two. Naya didn't have to go to bed until long after me because he was 5. Quite often before I went to sleep, he used to come and tell me stories. I had a very specially favorite story about a lion and a wild cat and a hare. The hare lived with his mother in the reeds. He could run much faster than all his brothers and sisters, and although his mother warned him not to go too far from home, he didn't listen, for he thought he could run away from any danger, however sudden. He used to creep out at night and look up at the moon, where he could see the father of all the hares, and he used to tell them all about the clever things he had done. One day when he was busy thinking about himself, a huge wildcat sprang up upon him, and he picked him up in her mouth and took him home to her cubs for their breakfast. But the cubs had plenty of breakfast, so the wildcat put him down at the entrance to her cave and told him that if he moved, she would kill him at once. The poor hare was so frightened, he kept quite still. Then he looked up at the god of the hares, and he said, please look down out of the moon and help me. I made a mistake about being clever. I'll always listen to people who know more than I do. If only you'll see me from this wildcat. The wildcat listened to what he was saying, and she licked her whiskers and laughed. To think that any hare, even if he lived in the moon, could attack a wildcat. Suddenly, in the shadows outside the cave, there was a great roaring, and an enormous lion sprang up upon the wildcat and ate her right up. The little hare saw his prayers and had been answered, and he wasn't at all frightened of the lion, because he knew that the answer to a prayer is always good, whatever shape it comes in. So he went up to the lion and thanked him. The lion lay down so that the hare could climb on his back, and he nestled in the lion's mane while he rode him back home to his mother. When the little hare grew up, he told the story over and over again, and he always finished up by saying, look to the moon and you will see the wisest of us all. And the last chapter that I'll be reading is called Dream Country. One day when I was 3 years old, I was with my mother by the swimming pool. One end of it was quite shallow, and I could stand there alone. I took off my necklace of lapis and shell beads and my little white linen kilt and played in the water, banging it with my hands so that the drops leapt into the air. When I had finished with the water, I ran about in the sun without my clothes on, and I picked some flowers and made them into a bunch to give to Naya, who was out with my father. Then Mata came and said that it was time for me to go to bed, but I didn't want to go. I said, no, I won't, because I wanted to stay with my mother in the sun. Mata looked very stern and as tall as one of the pillars in the great hall. I jumped back into the pool and splashed very hard so that she couldn't come near me without getting wet. And then Mother asked me to come out, so I did. Mata got cross, so I lay on my back and yelled very loud, I won't go to sleep, I won't go to sleep, I won't. And I drummed my heels on the ground so that she could know that I really meant it and stop bothering me. This was a good idea because Mother told Mata to leave me alone with her. So Mata had to go, and I was very pleased. Then Mother asked me why I didn't want to go to sleep, and I said because it's dull, and because I'm enjoying myself having a lovely time. And she said, you can have a lovely time when you were asleep. I didn't quite know what she meant until she pointed to my kilt, which was still lying by the edge of the pool, and went on. Sometimes you wear that kilt, and sometimes you don't. Just because you haven't got your kilt on, it doesn't mean you have to be dull. When you want to get into to sleep, so I gave her lots of kisses and went to my room and told Mata I was sorry I'd been horrid, and that she stopped being a long way off like a pillar and became all near and friendly again. When Mother came to say goodnight, she sat beside me and stroked my forehead with her cool hand as her soft voice caressed me. Sleep, my daughter, for the sun has drawn the curtains of the night, leaving the stars to watch while you rest. The sails of all the river boats are furled, and the birds have folded their far-flying wings. Lion cubs are sleeping in their mother's warmth, and fish dream in the shelter of the reeds. The flowers breathe out their perfume on the dusk, and all is still save the night-singing bird. So sleep, my daughter, and close your drowsy lids. Sleep with the world and let your spirit free. And I curled up in my bed and tried to go to sleep very quickly so as to get to know more about the dream country. Alrighty. I really hope that you guys were able to enjoy that, the first 3 chapters of that book. Sorry, I have such trouble reading because I have dyslexia, so it's kind of hard for me to read, but I really enjoyed reading that. But anyways, if you guys want a custom video, all the information is in my description, and please keep the requests appropriate. I am a minor, so just keep that in mind before you email me. But anyways, I